Have you ever wondered how you would survive in the wild by identifying edible plants? The ability to recognize what Mother Nature has to offer in terms of nourishment is not only fascinating, but also vital. This knowledge can be a game changer, turning a potentially dire situation into a survivable one. Understanding the world of edible plants opens up a new dimension to our relationship with nature. It's like learning a new language where each plant tells its own story. Some of the most common edible plants include dandelions, chickweed, and plantain. These are just a few examples of nature's bounty that can sustain us in the wilderness. But it's not just about survival. It's also about appreciating the diversity and abundance of our natural environment. So whether you're an outdoor enthusiast, a budding botanist, or simply curious, this knowledge is invaluable. Stick around as we delve into the step-by-step process of identifying edible plants in the wild. Before we dive into the process, it's crucial to understand the safety precautions. Venturing into the wild and foraging for food can be an exciting adventure. But like all adventures, it's not without its risks. The key to safely foraging for edible plants lies in following certain precautions. First and foremost, never eat anything you cannot positively identify. The wilderness is a vast pantry of delectable plants, but it's also home to a myriad of poisonous ones. Misidentifying a plant can lead to serious health consequences, so it's better to be safe than sorry. If in doubt, leave it out. Secondly, be mindful of where you're foraging. Avoid plants near roads or polluted areas. Car emissions, roadside litter, and chemical runoff can contaminate plants, making them unsafe to eat. The same goes for plants growing near industrial sites or agricultural fields where they might be exposed to harmful pesticides or fertilizers. Thirdly, be aware of the potential dangers of misidentifying plants. Some edible plants have toxic lookalikes. For example, the harmless wild carrot has a deadly doppelganger known as the poison hemlock. They look remarkably similar, but their effects are vastly different. Confusing the two could be a fatal mistake. In addition, remember to respect nature and take only what you need. Overharvesting can deplete the local flora and disturb the ecosystem. It's also important to familiarize yourself with local laws and regulations concerning foraging. Some areas may prohibit it altogether, while others may restrict the types and quantities of plants that can be collected. Lastly, always carry a reliable guidebook or use a trusted mobile app to help identify plants. These tools can be invaluable in distinguishing between edible and potentially harmful plants. So, let's recap. Positively identify before you try, forage from clean areas, beware of poisonous lookalikes, respect the environment, follow local laws and regulations, and utilize a guidebook or app. Remember, safety first. Now, let's explore how to identify these plants. Now that we know the precautions, it's time to learn the identification process. Identifying edible plants is a skill that requires both knowledge and practice, and it's a skill that could save your life in an outdoor survival situation. First things first, you'll want to examine the plant's characteristics. This includes everything from the shape and color of the leaves, to the plant's overall size and form, to any flowers or fruits it might bear. You'll also want to take note of the plant's smell. Many plants have a distinctive odor that can help you identify them. For example, wild garlic and onions smell exactly like their cultivated counterparts. The leaf shape is a crucial characteristic to observe. Some edible plants have lance-shaped leaves, while others have heart-shaped or oval leaves. The edges of the leaves can be smooth, toothed, or lobed. The leaf arrangement on the stem can also provide helpful clues. They may be opposite, alternate, whorled, or in a rosette pattern. The color of the plant can also provide valuable information. While most plants are green, some edible plants display a variety of colors. For instance, the red clover has green leaves and distinctive pink to purplish flowers. Remember though, that color alone is not a reliable identifier, as many toxic plants can also be brightly colored. The smell of the plant can be another useful identification tool. Some plants have a strong, distinctive smell that can help you recognize them. For example, the smell of wild mint or lemon balm can be a clear indicator of their edibility. Once you've examined the plant's characteristics, the next step is to cross-reference your observations with a plant identification guide. These guides can be physical books, or they can be apps on your smartphone. They'll provide you with detailed descriptions and illustrations of various plants, allowing you to match what you're seeing in the wild with the information in the guide. A useful tip here is to always cross-reference with more than one source. Different guides may offer slightly different information, so cross-referencing can help you confirm your identification. Remember, when in doubt, it's always safer to avoid eating a plant if you're not completely sure about its identity. Finally, if you're confident in your identification but want to be absolutely sure, you can perform a universal edibility test. This test involves several stages, including separating the plant into its basic components, leaves, stems, roots, etc., touching a piece of the plant to your skin to check for irritation, and finally, tasting a small piece to check for any adverse reactions. This is a slow process and should only be used as a last resort when other food sources are not available. These steps should guide you in identifying edible plants, but remember, practice makes perfect. The more you practice identifying plants in the wild, the better you'll become at it. And with time and practice, you'll be able to confidently forage for food in the wild, knowing that you can safely identify and consume a variety of natural foods. Keep in mind that this is a basic guide and there's always more to learn. Some plants may have lookalikes that are poisonous, so it's important to be sure of your identification before consuming anything. Remember, the goal here is not just survival, but safe and sustainable foraging. Always respect nature and only take what you need. Now, let's move on to some common edible plants you might encounter in the wild. Knowing some common edible plants can give you a head start. Let's dive right into it, shall we? First off, let's talk about a plant that you've probably seen countless times, the humble dandelion. You can identify dandelions by their vibrant yellow flowers and rosette of toothed leaves. They're practically everywhere, in parks, fields, and even sprouting through cracks in the pavement. Not only are they easy to find, but every part of the plant is edible. Yes, you heard it right. The leaves can be added to salads, the flowers brewed into tea, and the roots roasted for a coffee substitute. Next up, we have the clover, a common sight in grasslands and open fields. Look for the distinctive trifoliate leaves, often with a lighter band running across the middle. The white or pink flowers are also quite distinctive. Clovers are high in protein, and while the taste might be a bit bland, they can be a valuable addition to your survival menu. You can eat them raw, but they're also great when boiled. Our third plant is the stinging nettle. Now, you might be thinking, stinging nettle? Really? But bear with me. Despite its sting, it's an excellent source of vitamins and minerals. You can identify them by their heart-shaped leaves with serrated edges and tiny hairs that deliver the sting. They're commonly found in rich, moist soil, often near water sources. To safely eat them, they need to be cooked, which removes the sting. And there you have it. 3 common plants that could be a lifesaver in a survival situation. But remember, these are just the tip of the iceberg. There are countless other edible plants out there, each with their own unique characteristics and flavors. So keep exploring, keep learning, and who knows? You might find your new favorite food growing right under your feet. These are just a few examples. There are numerous edible plants out there waiting to be discovered. So that's a basic guide to identifying edible plants in the wild. Just as a quick recap, remember that safety should always be your top priority. Never consume a plant if you are not 100% sure it is safe. It's better to skip a meal than risk your health. Conduct the universal edibility test if you're uncertain. In terms of identification, paying attention to the plant's features is crucial. The leaves, flowers, and stem all give us clues as to whether the plant is edible or not. We've also looked at some common edible plants you're likely to encounter, like the dandelion, plantain, and clover. These are great starting points for any budding forager. But remember, this is just the tip of the iceberg. There are thousands of edible plants out there waiting to be discovered. Remember, survival in the wild is about knowledge and preparation, so equip yourself with the right information and stay safe out there.